Hey, Steve, can you hear me, bud? No. Okay, one sec.
See if I can get this going. Test. Steven? Can you hear me, Steve? Check your settings, Steve. I don't know if you can hear me. Can anyone else hear me? Hey, Jacqueline, you're connecting too. Charles. Is anyone able to confirm that you can hear my audio? Yes? Okay, awesome. Thanks, Jacqueline. Appreciate it. Thanks, Nicole. Got a thumbs up from VAC, whoever that is. Appreciate you joining us today. I can't hear you, Steve. Hey, Charles, thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it. Supper time for you. Jacqueline, thanks for putting on your video. It's very brave of you. You can unmute yourself, Jacqueline, if you want to say hi. Oh, I can unmute you. There you go. Can I hear you?
Everyone.
Oh, there you go. Okay, nice. I'm not used to having the power in terms of controlling the mute, so appreciate you joining and thanks for being on video. That's great.
First time. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, is this your first time joining us?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Yeah, so this is our second meetup. So did you have a chance to take a look at the recording from our first meetup?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Okay, no worries. Cool. Well, we'll probably just kind of hold tight here. We'll give everyone a few minutes. It took us probably 5 or 10 minutes a couple of weeks ago to get most of the group on. So we'll give an opportunity for everyone to sign on here in the next few minutes, and then yeah, we'll get started. Where are you based, Jacqueline?
In Vancouver.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome. I see Rob Chambers is here too. That's great. There you go,
Hey,
Steve.
Josh, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, you're good, bud.
Yeah, for some reason those things, I don't know. All right.
The AirPods, yeah, I know. I restarted my computer just because I find what I do is I disconnect the Bluetooth on my phone, and then when I restart, it usually allows me to connect. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 4 o'clock.
Yeah, let's give it 5 minutes or so.
Sure. All right. Let's see, who do we got here? Drop in the chat section where you're from. We got Charles. Charles, where are you? Where are you, buddy? Let's see you. I don't see you, Charles. You can't do this.
Got his professional.
Yeah, what is this?
It looks good.
Come on, Charles. I know the kids are there. I know the kids are in the background. Well, where is he? Let's unmute Charles. Charles, how's it going, buddy?
Good, man. How are you guys?
Yeah, fantastic, man.
Yeah, no, you got it right. I got the kids running around, so.
Well, supper time for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you in Houston right now?
Yeah, I'm in Houston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I guess not too much travel going on right now.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm probably only hang out for about 20 minutes or so. I got something for the kids.
You could stay over there.
All right, on.
Oh,
right on.
Oh, appreciate you joining us. That's awesome.
Cool, buddy. Gus, we got Gus.
Connecting
He's
his audio.
connecting.
Yeah.
Charles, how's business been down there in Houston? You guys still busy?
Yeah, no, it's pretty busy. You know, probably I don't know how much, from when I talked to my other buddies, kind of all over the place, right? I mean, when we went lockdown, then you know, in terms of moving properties, it got slow for a little bit because everybody got you know, all the buyers kind of just, you know, they kind of went away. Like even kind of the professional guys, a lot of them are still around, but like some of the newer ones, they all for sure got kind of scared out.
You left because
But they are starting to come back now. So,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, there's a lot more activity now than, 3-4 weeks ago, for sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And one of the biggest things for us in, what was it, April, was just the lending side of it, right? A lot of
Oh, yeah.
the funding just
Rose up.
went
Oh,
went
yeah.
bye-bye. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are a ton of lenders that are just like, yeah, we're just not originating any loans for the month of April. We're
Yep.
not sure about May. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But then, there's still some that were. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like a lot of like you said, your earlier point, right? From a buyer perspective, it's kind of like a forced spring cleaning. A lot of the players that, have really been rolling for the past little while are really kind of being forced to slow things down. Whereas those guys that, they've been waiting for this opportunity, you can start to really identify the people that you really want to be focusing your time on building a relationship with. So it's, it's kind of the cycle that this business seems to go through every few years. So, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
good. It's good.
For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I find myself spending a lot more time on the disposition side than acquisitions, for sure. Just right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cultivate relationships, go and find new people buying, right? Because I mean, it's been, I'm not going to say it's been easy the last whatever couple years, but in reality, you look at it, yeah, it kind of has been.
Yeah, for sure. So everyone that's kind of joined, I know we're gonna, we'll kind of do the
Hey, what's
intro.
going on, guys? Am I coming through? This is
Oh
Rob.
yeah. Hey Rob.
Mr. Chambers, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, all right. I can only be on for about an hour, but and I'm doing a lot of things. I got to pick up once.
Oh, sorry, you cut out there, bud.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's good to see you guys, hear you guys. I'm wanting to get back in the game. I'm actually wanting to do some stuff out of town probably, so
Nice.
other parts of the country.
Well, you know us, right? You're one of the reasons why we got our start out of country in Austin. So it's awesome to have you here. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, yeah. So we'll kind of allow a few more people to trickle in here. Definitely some familiar names, which is great. I think we had 50 or so people RSVP, and encourage people to be on video if you're comfortable. If not, totally fine. I know people got different things going on, but I know we definitely want to try to make this interactive, right? And as we kind of go through the conversation, questions, hopefully will kind of come up, and jump on video, we'll unmute, we'll allow for some of that Q&A as we kind of go through things. And then, the more interaction, the better this will be for everybody.
And then also too, just to reference, I mean, if you can, with the top right corner there, you can put it into different views as well. So you can do speaker view if you want, or you can change the format of your view as well. So let's see here. I'm just doing something, and then we'll get started. Let's see. Stop.
We got Jack calling in too from Texas, which is cool.
Right on.
Jack, how you doing? You're unmuted, Jack, if you want to say hi. Could have a mute. Oh, there you go. You got a hello in the chat. We'll take that.
All right. Okay. Well, why don't we get started here, everyone? Josh, what do you think? Is now a good time for us to get rolling here on this?
Sure. Yeah, let's do the intros and stuff.
Okay. So basically, yeah. For those of you that were on the last meetup, we did more of I guess an overview of our business. We went into a little bit more detail, but just to summarize, Josh and we started this company back in 2015. Was it 2015? Yep. 2015. Yeah. Really not knowing anything about virtual real estate and doing virtual wholesaling. In fact, at the time, there were a few people that were doing it. There wasn't a lot of content on it, and and so like really kind of just a new space altogether. We ran into a group of people who a lot of you are going to know: Kent Clothier, Sean Terry, Justin Colby. And just one late night, we were looking online and we came across Sean Terry and Ken, and they seemed like, you know, really sincere and genuine guys, which we now, you know, have come to realize and know them well. They are. But they had a system, right? They had a system for finding motivated sellers and cash buyers, and we knew we wanted to get into real estate here in Vancouver, Canada. You know, we wanted to do this here originally in our backyard, but the challenge that we have here is privacy legislation and a bunch of different things that really prevented us from doing the wholesaling side of it. And the cost of real estate here is super expensive. You know, you're looking for $1 million a teardown. And that wasn't something that, well, quite honestly, at the time we could afford doing. And it seemed like there was a lot of risk. So fast forward, we found Kent, we found Sean, we paid for their coaching, we paid for, you know, their systems and everything. And we're like, okay, well, let's do this virtual. And so we went into Austin, Texas. We selected Austin, Texas. No real estate background, no experience. We really knew nothing about doing this, other than we had made a decision and committed to it and decided to do it. So that's basically what started this off here for us. So, you know, fast forward, I guess through those years, there's we could go into a lot of things that we did horribly wrong. And hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
Charles knows us well too, so he knows. But we did a lot of things that just, you know, we fell on we got punched in the face lots of times. And we did some really stupid mistakes, you know, some of which we'll get into here when it comes to marketing, because there were some things, and I know, I think Mr. Levy, I think you're looking at scaling and growing your market, right? You've been doing this for 5 years or so, is that right? I think,
Exactly.
5 years, yes, 5 years.
yeah. Okay, cool. Good to see you, man.
So, yeah, likewise. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, right on. I like this. You know what? I'd love to hear your comments and stuff and how you like this, because personally for me, having some interaction here with people, it's going to make this a lot better than looking at Josh
100%.
the whole time.
Yeah. He looks through the glass. He sees me through the glass all day. So this is at least I'm behind a screen right now. Something.
Yeah. Anyways, so, you know, we made a lot of mistakes when it came to marketing, and, you know, knowing some things that we know today about, you know, our numbers certainly has helped improve things. By no means do we have it all figured out. Like, there is no golden ticket here when it comes to marketing, other than it's a constant battle of testing and trying and you know, doing new things and really trying to just, you know, for some people, you know, it's pay per click. They do well pay per click. For others, they don't, and it's direct mail or it's cold calling, and really it's a matter of testing and trying and figuring out what works for you, and then being able to scale that. And so that's some of what we're going to talk about here. But anyways, we went into Austin, Texas. We have never met with a seller. To this day, I've never walked in a home. Neither has Josh. We have met very few of our actual buyers that we work with. We have a cold call team out in the Philippines that are fantastic. We manage them in-house here. They are full-time part of our team. We have VAs, you know, so total employee-wise, I think we have about 15 or so people working for us full-time. Our acquisitions is right over here, in-house. We have Lee, who is somewhere on here. Maybe he left.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, he's on the call. He's on the call
somewhere. Lee, he is our head dispositions out in Texas there. Phenomenal guy. And then we have Sabrina here, who is really who we go to when, well, she's the glue that keeps it all together, really. And she's in Waco, Texas. So, you know, our team is spread out. We are truly, I guess, technically a global company that has been doing this virtually from day one. So, you know, take what you like that we talk about. Obviously, take what you don't like, and try to implement a few things. If there's anything, if there's one or two things that you can take from this call and you can implement and try, then go ahead and do that and try it, right? And Josh and I are here to answer any questions, whether it be now or later. So do that. If you have questions that come up, you can raise your hand. I think there's like a little reaction or something that you can do here, where you can raise your hand and wave at us or pose a question in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to it. Some of the things we're going to be talking about here, just at a very high level right now, we'll dig more into it just to kind of give you an agenda. We're going to go through, our marketing and kind of what it looks like now. We're going to, dig a bit deeper into, and for some reason I lost this. Where did that go?
The agenda?
Yeah, where's our agenda?
I got it. It's in OneNote. I can pick up on it if you want.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, the meetup. No,
yeah.
This is.
Let me go.
Hold on.
I got it.
It's in the meetings. I got it. I'm good. Sorry, everyone. Not perfect. Progress, not perfection. So, we're going to go through, how to select a market or how to scale into new markets, depending on where you're at with things. So kind of what to do there. We're going to start, how to market for buyers. That is a lesson learned that we have made that mistake now twice, and don't make this mistake. So this is very important. Make sure you stick around for that. How to market on a budget. Okay, so it's a great way to scale into new markets. So we'll get into some best practices there. How to scale your marketing efforts, right? So you've got things going, and now you're okay. Well, how do I scale it? How do I go into new markets? Those sorts of things we'll talk about. And then probably one of the more important things is tracking. You need to know what's working for you, right? And so now when it comes to this, admittedly, I am by no means the best person to talk about marketing. I'm more of a sales guy, as you can probably tell. But Josh here is, he handles our marketing for our company, and he oversees it. He is really the person behind, making the sales funnel go. So he's going to do most of the talking here. I'm going to ask some questions, and as well, if anything comes up that you want to ask or discuss, please let me know in the chat. I'm going to open up the chat window here. I'm going to try my best to follow the questions. Dax, you're from Vancouver, man. That's awesome. Glad to have you here. South Florida. I wish I was in South Florida right now. So yeah, let us know where you're at. Jack Burns, good to see you, man. Love you. Nicole from Denver. We got Houston. So let us know. Miami. That's awesome. I love this. Anyways, okay, let's get started. So Josh, why don't we get started here?
Yeah.
How to pick a market or how to scale into markets.
For sure. So so just to kind of pick up on what Steve said, ideally, like the questions, you can just throw them up as they come up, right? And we want to, as best as we can, keep the conversation on marketing. Depending on how quickly we get through this, there might be an opportunity at the end for kind of more general questions. One of the other things too, this is our second meetup, right? We did a couple in person here in Vancouver, but I think this virtual model is really something we want to continue to build on. And again, like this idea of building a community is really important to us. And at least for us, it's the communities that we have joined that have really helped us along the way. So if you haven't already, check out the Facebook group that we've created, the virtual real estate meetup. Eventually, I think there's 50 people now, but we expect to grow that. We have several hundred in the meetup registered. So we want to get everybody moving over to Facebook, questions in real time. Obviously, Steve and I are keeping an eye on that. And again, like the whole idea is just providing as much content and value as we can. So the more interaction and questions and issues and stuff like that that are brought forward by the group, the more valuable this will be. I think the other thing too, like just in terms of the feedback on the format of this, the last 2 weeks ago, we did it in more of a webinar format. This time we said, well, let's just go straight video conference so people have the option to go on video. Definitely encourage you to do that because again, we're trying to sort of resemble what in-person kind of meetup RIA might be like. So the more we can kind of get to know each other, the better. And I do think, maybe at the start of the next one, what we'll do is we can even provide an opportunity for like a real quick kind of round robin intro, or if you have specific questions or stocks or issues with like a deal or something like that, provide a forum for people to say, hey, I know I'm in this market, I got this contract, I'm having a tough time selling it. Kind of come with an ask, right? And we as a group can try to kind of work through that, because who knows, right? You might be in a market and you have a deal that you're trying to sell, and there could be someone on this group that is in that market or has buyers in that market, right? So I know in the past that has been something I've really enjoyed in the meetups that I've attended. So I think we can try to kind of create that here as well. So just kind of some general stuff. All right, so picking a market. So if I think about what we did the first time, to Steve's point, when we picked Austin, it was probably the better part of a couple hours, maybe 2 hours of research. It was, Forbes top 10 cities, and, Austin showed up pretty high on the list, and San Antonio and Houston. And we had all these cities showing up in Texas, and Austin seemed like a cool city, a place that we'd like to visit, which, by no means should influence the markets that you choose to virtually wholesale in. But at the time, it kind of made sense. And so we picked Austin, and we sort of said, we'd give it 6 months. And if it stuck, we'd kind of keep at it. And if not, we'd pivot into a new market. So that's kind of how we did it. Not how we recommend, you do it this time. And so a few things, to kind of start off, you want to keep in mind, right? And this is, again, sort of our opinion. People have success in all different types of markets across the country, right? But for us, one of the things that's really important to consider is population. We want to typically be in markets where there are at least, I'd say, 750,000 to 1 million people in population. And again, this might be your core market and some of the adjacent. So if we look at Austin, Texas as an example, right? There's Austin, but then there's a number of really solid submarkets that would be within like 20 miles of the city. And the reason population is important to us is because it's going to indicate a decent amount of homes, and in most cases, a decent amount of investor activity. So right off the bat, if you're trying to pick a market and you're looking at, say, 3 or 4 markets, looking at population, right, is one variable to consider. Another thing that we consider is price points. And again, we know a lot of people that wholesale deals, and on the West Coast, California, San Francisco, $1 million wholesale deals. It's a different business model, right? They're doing fewer flips, but they're typically higher margin flips. And you can absolutely do it in those markets. For us, we tend to gravitate towards lower kind of median price point markets, that 100K to 300K. And kind of the thinking for us there is our ability to do more deals, right? And have a larger pool of investors that are playing in the market space. You typically will find that in markets where your price points are, I guess, more accessible to people, right? So you have population as a consideration, you have price points. And then there's kind of like the more general economics, right? Like the basic stuff, is there a good amount of population growth? Is there tourism, universities, technology, cool companies, Apple, Amazon, Dell? Like, you're looking for some of these bigger companies, where are they setting up shop, right? Because that's a good indication of economics, right? Of people coming to the market. There's going to be demand for real estate. And usually, some basic research online is going to give you that information, right? And so, what I've found is usually it's sort of kind of the stuff you hear about a market that might lead you to look at a specific market. You then got to take it a step further and start to kind of compare, right? So I would suggest, if you have 3 to 6 markets you're considering moving into, just build out a table, kind of compare some of those data points and see what jumps out, right? And it's going to really quickly give you a good sense of markets that make sense. The last thing I would offer, and then Steve, you probably have some things to add here too, is having relationships, right, will really help accelerate your ability to open up and scale in a market. So as an example, right, we've been operating out of Texas for the better part of 5 years, and we've opened up a few different sort of major markets within the state, and we decided we wanted to go into an entirely different state. And what we did is we basically looked at our relationships. You know, we looked at some of our key buyer relationships. We looked at a few of the wholesalers that we've had success partnering with, and basically turned to them and said, hey, well, you know, what markets are you playing in, right? It's kind of like sort of the idea of, you know, instead of, you know, if you're a fast food chain and instead of trying to figure out like that perfect corner, just go and look at where McDonald's is at or Burger King or one of those, and you basically set up shop on the same corner. They've already done the research, right? So we, you know, we often, as we look at our plans to expand, we're looking at the relationships that we have, because there's, you know, as much as you can get a whole bunch of information online, and technology is pretty amazing right now, being able to pick up the phone and call somebody that's, you know, say, Charles, if we were going to open up in Houston, I'd give Charles a call, and Charles would be able to help us go deep into that market, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and just, you know, to touch on this, so picking a market isn't actually as difficult and as challenging as people make it to be. It's quite literally, it can be very simple. And I'll help everyone out here, and those, you know, a lot of people, I'm sure, you know, will you know, be able to share the same sort of feedback. But every market's competitive, right? Oftentimes I hear, you know, if you, especially if you're new looking to grow into a market or go into a market, you know, yeah, it's competitive. Okay, every market's competitive. You know, there's competition. There's, you know, yes, like there's going to be challenges, and I think a lot of people will, like, I hear this all the time. I can't go into that market because it's too competitive. Well, you know what, if that's your mindset going into it, like, you're going to have challenges no matter what market you go into, because there's always going to be challenges. There's going to be competition. Now, one of the things that Josh touched on about picking a market is, you know, for us, like one thing that really attracted us to Austin was the conversations that we were having with people. And some of the things that we did very early on is we reached out to real estate agents. We had conversations with other wholesalers. We had, like, you know, where is he?
Rob,
You know, we had conversations with him. We had conversations with other people down there as well, and really got a feel for, you know, the people there. And, you know, that helped us also select the market as well. So that's an easy way to get a better understanding of the market and whether or not it's something that you want to actually, you know, do business in. The other thing too, when selecting a market, is looking at with the software that's available out there. You have the MLS data. You can, you know, you have PropStream, REI Automator. You have all these different tools. Is look at cash buyer transactions, right? And that's a really good way to select a market. If you pick a market where there's not a lot of cash transactions going on, probably not the best market to be going into. You want to look for markets that have a lot of activity, that, you know, it's not just one particular zip code or a couple zip codes. There's multiple zip codes that you can market into, because that's going to help you scale as well. So, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, going into lessons learned, you know, you want to find the activity. You want to go into markets where there's a lot of cash buyer activity.
Great point, Steve. And just for, you know, that there's, like, to Steve's point, there's a lot of different ways to do that. One way to do it is actually using ListSource. So if anyone knows ListSource, it's a great online tool for purchasing lists, but there's actually a ton of data that's available for free. And so I actually did a training thing. It's like an 8-minute video that shows you how to basically go into ListSource, target a specific city or county, and really narrow down on zip codes or counties or cities within a state that have that activity. And what you do is, instead of focusing on cash activities, you look at absentee owners, right, as a good indication of investors, right? So people that are buying property and have a different mailing address often is a good indication that it was an investor purchase. And so if you want to actually kind of go deep, to Steve's point, and this is definitely kind of part of the seller side of things, when you start marketing for seller leads, you don't want to just be blasting, you know, the entire state or an entire city for that matter. You know, if you're on a budget, you want to maybe focus on the top 5 or 6 zip codes where you see the most amount of activity. And so definitely encourage you to check it. It's actually on my Instagram. You'll see the video there. and I might have posted it to our Facebook group as well. But again, it's like a 7-minute video. It takes you right through the steps. And at the end of it, you're actually going to have a spreadsheet prioritized by investor activity that you can use to compare different markets, or once you've selected your market, to really go deep into figuring out where it's worth spending your time on, spending your money on marketing.
So just before we move on to a different going into marketing for cash buyers, does anybody have any questions specifically about selecting a market or scaling markets or anything like that? I think we're good.
No, I think we're
Okay.
good.
Okay, Josh. So so once you've selected a market, then okay, like what next? Like how are we then going to find? What would you do next? Let's just put it that way.
So, well, you definitely want to get in front of cash buyers, right? Cash buyers, wholesalers,
what mistakes have we
realtors,
made in the past, and how has that actually really burnt us? Because that's
fair. So,
don't do this.
Well, the mistakes we've made in the past is we went full tilt on marketing for seller leads, right? So we had a whole bunch of leads coming through, signing contracts, but not having the buyers, right, to be able to move them. And there's kind of two schools of thought, right? In
Jeff's not, Jeff, I see Jeff nodding his head here.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, hold on a second. How do I unmute you? I hope you don't mind. I'm putting you on the spot here. I don't think we've ever met. Where are you from, Jeff?
Calling from Houston.
You calling from Houston?
Oh, nice.
So it sounds like you've maybe made the same mistake.
Well, it was just something, Regina is my business partner. It was something we talked about a lot, which was, hey, we have to be marketing for the deals, but we need to understand what our buyers are willing to pay for in a certain area or neighborhood so that we're pricing it correctly.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
So
right on point.
And are you doing virtual, or are you doing just all like boots on the ground? Like you have team established there in Houston, or is Houston your market?
Houston is our market. We're going with the virtual model primarily.
Okay. Do you know Charles?
No, but I actually cold called Simon yesterday, trying to set up and get in touch with Charles. So yes, I have every intention of meeting him at some point.
Very, very cool. Yeah, great guy. So make sure you do. So you're setting up virtual locally in your market right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's a good guy too who does this. Friends of ours. His name's Aaron Pimpus out of Tampa Bay, Florida. He owns a company, SMS company, which we're going to share a little bit about today. But he does all virtual in his market. So yeah, cool. Anyways, Josh, go on, and thanks, Jeff, for that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So to Jeff's point, right? It's understanding where the demand is, and one of the biggest, I'd say, frustrations is for acquisition folks is you're going out, you're working hard to get what you believe to be great contracts, and you're not able to close them, right? And so this is kind of the mistake that we've made, where we were really strong on the front end, right, of marketing, getting the leads to come in. We had a really effective acquisition process, acquisition guys closing deals or getting contracts signed, and then we'd kind of be scrambling. So the point I was going to make just around the two philosophies, there's those out there that really kind of, I guess, preach this idea of like, get the contract, get that good deal, and you'll find a buyer, right? And then that works, right? It's a different approach. What we have really adopted is this idea of reverse wholesale, right? And Kent Clothier, for those that know him, kind of coined that phrase, and we were sort of trained up through his methodology. And the whole idea here is you never stop marketing for cash buyers, right? Whether it's outbound or inbound, it is the lifeline of your business. And especially if you look at the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, it's the wholesalers that know their buyers, have a solid track record and relationship, are the ones that have continued to do deals, right? It's those wholesalers that are kind of just chasing that next contract that I think have really had a tough time, right? And so, with Steve's point, like the irony of it is we've been in this for several years, and when we opened up Atlanta as a new market, we kind of lost sight of that, and we went really heavy on the marketing, the acquisitions, and we had a few buyer relationships that we thought would be enough for us to be able to move the deals and vet our deals and all that, but As a result, our closing percentage really dropped. And so we've really in the last 4 months refocused our energy on getting in front of a lot of buyers and wanted to kind of emphasize that point. So as you're looking, once you've identified that market, you want to start getting in front of buyers. And so there's a number of ways to do that, right? There's obviously paid ways to do that, right? Whether it be direct mail, you can SMS, there's lots of different ways to do that. And I think that that's an effective way. And there's definitely a different sort of, I guess, tone to the conversation when a buyer gets a letter and calls you versus you kind of cold calling them. But I think there's a place for both. And we try to balance outbound and inbound. So some of the things we do from an outbound perspective is, we're very active on social media. And that is something that is available to everyone. And how we built our buyers list in Texas originally, other than probably sending out a few thousand mailers, was heavy on social media. It's jumping onto the various Facebook groups that are available to you. It's starting to network and private message. It's the information is there, right? And you can immediately connect with prospective buyers. So now, we actually have a VA who does this full time for us. He spends 5 hours a day on social media, messaging prospective buyers, and that's resulting in us probably adding anywhere from, I'd say, 20 to 25 new cash buyers to our list every single day. So, when you're getting started, it's time, right? It's putting yourself out there, it's building those relationships, and you will very, very quickly build your list. Simple things like jumping on to an active Facebook group and real estate Facebook group in your market, saying, hey, I'm a new wholesaler. I think what we used to do is we say, we're a newer wholesaler, we're aiming to do 5 to 10 wholesale deals a month. If you'd like to be added to my buyers list, please let me know. And you'll probably get 20, 30 people raise their hand just like that, right on your buyers list. And then you go deep with those people. So getting on social media is something you definitely want to do right away. Another thing that we've started to find a lot of success with is really tapping into the MLS. Realtors are a huge resource for you to build your buyers list. And what we're finding is it's actually a very effective way to sell deals that you otherwise probably would not have been able to do to direct to a typical cash buyer that you might be working with, because a lot of the clients that these realtors are working with, they may be investors or they may even be an end retail buyer. We just did one in Macon, Georgia. Yeah, exactly. Right. So the expectations in terms of, the discounts aren't quite the same as if you're trying to work direct with a cash buyer. And
so Josh, let's just touch on something here just quickly, because I think this is very important for people to understand. And one thing here, just and I'll backtrack, but Alex, for markets, you asked a question, do you like population over 1 million? Yeah, absolutely. Like, we love, you want a large population size, but that said, for instance, like Austin, Texas, there's multiple markets around, right? That like Waco, there's Temple, there's, Killeen, there's a bunch of smaller secondary markets that we also do business in, right? So, and they're well under 1 million, less than 500,000 kind of thing. So, not necessarily. There are some gems that you can find, but again, look at the cash buyer activity for those, right? Because that's really it's like a heat map. It's going to show you what's going on in a particular area and how many transactions are going on. One thing that's very important when you look at cash buyer transactions, though, is make sure that you're not going like 2 years out, right? Because if you have a 2 year, that's not going to give you a very accurate idea of what's happening right now. So you want to keep it so that it's, within the last 3, 6, maybe 12 months when you're pulling that information. But going back to the realtor thing, Josh, now, one of the things that, how do you reach out to realtors? Like, what are some of the things that you're doing right now? Because like quite literally, this one deal was almost a dead deal. And, we reached out, we did a campaign out to realtors. I have no idea what you did, but then the next thing I was about to call to terminate, and he's doing a happy dance in the other room, quite literally, because of a realtor, calling. And so what happened there?
Yeah. So what we do now, this is part of our dispo process. So, and obviously having MLS access is important, and that's a relatively easy thing to get in any market. You know, you can reach out to a realtor, and if they're not willing to bring you on as, say, an assistant where you get your own unique login, you can build a relationship with the realtor. You know, basically say, you know, we'll give you all of our retail referrals, right? Because as a wholesaler, you get a lot of these leads that come through that aren't suitable for a wholesale deal, and so you could be a huge source of retail listings, right? And that is usually all that it takes, right? You find an agent that you know, is kind of aligned with your values and all that stuff. You establish this partnership, and that's what we did in Georgia. We met somebody, actually, where we met Alex in Florida at the Real Empire. I think it was a Real Empire event, and we met an agent who was at that event who happened to be in Georgia. We had just opened up into the Atlanta market, and he's given us his credentials so we can log in. So obviously, step one, getting access to the MLS, and you know, this group could probably be a huge resource for people if you're needing that access, right? You can just ask, and I'm sure someone in the group would be able to direct you to that type of an agent. So what we do is we get a property under contract, and now part of our dispo process is we jump on the MLS and we pull a list of every cash transaction. So specifically, we're looking for properties that have sold for cash within, depending, you know, on the location, anywhere from, say, a quarter mile to as far as a mile out, right? And depending on location, we'll get anywhere from maybe 50 to, say, 150 sales, right, over the last 6 months. Now, the beautiful thing about the MLS is it tells you who the agent was. It gives you their phone number, which in almost every case is a cell phone number, and an email address. So we take that and we basically, we SMS. What we did is we create a campaign. We messaged out the realtor, and we basically say something simple. We say, you know, hey, so-and-so, you know, we have an off-market property located on this street. And I wanted to see if perhaps you had a client that might be interested. We can offer a full commission, something like that, right? And, you know, we did this for this property in Macon, which is a city, you know, I don't know how far south that is. It's probably like 30 miles.
I think it's about two hours.
2 hours. Okay, so a little bit further, you know, maybe 100 miles south of Atlanta. And there were, I think we had probably 250 agents or so. We actually pulled it for the entire city of Macon because it was a pretty small market. And we had like a 20% response rate, which is pretty good, right? Out of, you know, we probably had 50 texts come in, and obviously there's an effort that's required to like work through and screen and filter and send the basic information. But basically we connected with an agent who had a client, a retail client that had been looking for a home. And, you know, that client ended up getting this property below market. We ended up selling it for more than what we could have if it was going to an investor, by probably more than probably 20 grand higher than what a normal cash investor would have paid for it, because it was a retail client. So definitely it's like embedded in our process now for selling our deals, especially as we start to continue to scale out into new markets. You know, tapping into your realtor relationships is a huge way to sell your deals. So strongly encourage you to do that. You can also email them too, right? The thing you need to be careful with sort of email is spamming, right? So if you're going to email them, you know, I encourage you to create like a dummy email account, right? It's a Gmail account, and use that to email out, to communicate with people. And as interest comes in, then you can kind of move them over, right, to your proper business email account and pick up on the relationship from there. But you just want to be a little more careful if you're doing kind of mass email. We don't really do that ourselves, but I know people that do, and they have success with it. So, but texting is proven to be the easiest way to get a hold of people, right?
So kind of just closing the loop on this one here, because I know we're heading into time here, but so, you know, as far as marketing for cash buyers, Josh, like right now in our business, what do you feel is the most effective proven thing that we're doing?
Yeah. So if you're on a budget, online for sure. Like step one.
That's like Facebook groups. That's
Facebook.
You know, finding other wholesalers.
Yes, predominantly getting on Facebook and connecting with as many buyers, realtors, and wholesalers as possible, right? All those people are great relationships that are going to help you scale out. They're going to give you information about the market, and you're going to build that network, right? That's the goal, and you can do that right away. If you have money to throw at it, direct mail is one of those things things that's going to get you quality buyers more quickly. You just don't get a lot of them, right? Because the mail response rates can be pretty low. But those buyers that do pick up your letter and actually take the time to call you are good buyers, right? And so that's why I said earlier on, it's a different kind of conversation when they're coming to you. It sort of puts you in a slightly better position of power to really set the expectation on that relationship. But that takes, that takes money. But I'd say, spend $500 a month. This Have Cash Buyer campaign's going in every month. You'll get 20, 30 new calls coming in every month, and they'll be quality, right? Social media, there's a little more work to kind of filter through, but it's the easiest, quickest, and most cost-effective way to build your buyers list. You can quickly grow to several hundred.
And I love what's happening in the chat group. Victoria, no sellers in this day and age, sellers and buyers don't care about seeing an out-of-state number. I if anything, like, they might be more inclined to answer. We found that, like, the Canadian numbers sometimes will use it, and people right away, where are you calling from? And we'll say, well, we're calling from Vancouver. And shockingly, a lot of people from Texas have been to Vancouver, and they talk about how great it is and everything. Like, so it's actually an interesting way to build rapport with people without actually intentionally doing that. The other thing that you mentioned here, Victoria, and about neighborhoods and what if it's a bad neighborhood, you don't want to get stuck with the property, that sort of thing. In the contract, you're going to have a period of time to do the inspection period. It's called an option period in Texas, inspection period in some places, due diligence period. And in that period, you'll be able to terminate the contract before you're tied to losing any sort of money on it. So that's something that I could help you with or steer you in a direction. Acquisitions call, we'll touch on that. And that's, I think, the next one. Dax, you don't need an LLC in Vancouver to do virtual wholesaling. Gus, you answered that question. So I think we're good there. So kind of moving on there. So Josh, thank you for that. Marketing on a budget, because lots of times people think that you have to spend a lot of money in order to be successful in this business, and that's not necessarily the case. Yeah.
So we got started, right? We had really zero money to kind of put into this thing, and really, what it comes down to is sort of this trade-off of time and money, right? If you have money, you can, quickly wrap up direct mail. You might want to go online, PPC, Facebook advertising, those sorts of things. But for us, getting started on a budget, it was heavy into for sale by owner, right? We spent a lot of time on Craigslist. Great resource. Actually, Steve, that Macon property was a Craigslist lead. So it is, yeah, I was just looking at that today. So, and we probably, the first 6 deals we did, 5 or 6 deals were all through Craigslist for sale by owner. So for anyone that's getting started, I always encourage them to jump onto Craigslist, go into for sale by owner, and use that as a way to practice, your pitch, your negotiations, all of that, right? These are free leads. It's obviously, it's the time you got to put in to get in front of these people is what it's costing you, but it's a massive way for you to start generating some traffic right away. And there are absolutely deals to be had on Facebook. We kind of lost touch of that for
Craigslist,
whatever reason. Yeah, for Craigslist, right? Like, for years we started off and we did it very consistently every day. Steve and I would, before work, after work, we'd send out 50 emails to all the new listings in our markets. We'd connect with people, we'd qualify, we'd get good at talking to sellers, and we'd get deals, right? So Craigslist is a great source for sale by owner. Zillow is also another good source. For salebyowner.com. These are all websites that you can tap into to get in front of sellers, and you can email, message, text them directly, right? Like, and that's the beautiful thing. So that's a huge source. The other thing that I strongly recommend, and this is something that we have consistently done since the very beginning, and awesome that Rob is here because he knows all about joint ventures. Like, joint venturing is, especially as a virtual wholesaler, but regardless of whether you're doing it in your local market or not, is a great way to kind of scale up and do deals, right? Whether it's, another wholesaler has a property and perhaps you have a buyer and you can help on the disposition, or vice versa. You got a deal and you need some help selling it. those JV partnerships are massive. And I would say, up until this year, of the deals that we've done, probably close to 45% have been done in some form of a joint venture, right? Either again, we're helping to sell someone else's deal, or in a few instances, some wholesalers have helped us sell ours. So, if you're getting started, getting onto Craigslist, it's a great way to find wholesalers, because a lot of wholesalers post their properties there. Start reaching out. You want to make contact with wholesalers again. That I would say, like, your value system is so important. And connecting with people that share that, right? And again, I keep referring to Rob, because right away, like, we hit it off with Rob because he is a good man, right? And we could try, there was a mutual level of trust, and not everyone kind of operates that way, right? And so as you start to kind of get out there and connect with these people, having those joint venture relationships is really, really big. Driving for dollars, you can do it in your market, you can do it virtual, right? You can quite literally jump on Google Street View and start moving through streets and looking at looking at houses, taking down addresses. And there's all sorts of cool platforms out there right now that allow you to, skip trace and send mail with the click of a button. And you can quite literally do it from your computer. So, it's not something we've done a lot of ourselves. We have had people locally in our markets drive for dollars for us. And that's been, the kind of bird dog leads for us. But those are, a few ways to start generating leads right away with a small budget.
So, driving for dollars, from my perspective, is especially not being local in a market. It takes a lot to manage that. I know that there's software and there's companies actually out there that are providing these services, that you can they manage the drivers and things like that, I think. But very, very difficult, because how do you verify the work and that sort of thing, and that can be the tough thing that's challenging. Not to say it doesn't work, but Josh, out of marketing on a budget, like, what would you say is the quickest and easiest way to do this?
Well, easy is debatable. Like, again, it's going to take time and effort, but for someone like, I'd go from just a
startup.
I would go to I'd go to Craigslist right away. Like, I would throw up some ads. Our first deal we ever did came from an ad that we posted on Craigslist saying that we were looking for deals, right? And seller called us and we got that one done.
With that, right? We took that and then we allocated percentage of the assignment fee that we collected and immediately put that into paid marketing, right? That's how we, and I remember that now, but that's how we grew and scaled our marketing, right? So it was all like, literally, we were working, jobs, 9 to 5 or whatever you want to call it, plus young families. And so we were there, hammering away late at night, messaging sellers on Craigslist. And this is the thing that I'd have to say about that. And if you get a VA to do this as well, it's a great way to increase your lead flow as well. But our VAs right now, they still follow, I think, mostly the same process in vetting. And it's like very simple. Like, we don't, go in and look at the pictures of the house and be like, okay, like, this looks like a nice house or not. It didn't matter. We went to the very last of the listings for sale by owner, the last page, because that's near the end of it expiring on Craigslist. And it's very simple. Like, hi, my name's Steve. Is this property still for sale? Send. Next one. Yep. And I just we'd copy paste. And then the next email, when someone responded, we would ask a second, we'd send a second email as a qualification. And what that did there is it, kind of showed us their interest, and it helped us gauge it before we picked up the phone and started calling them. So that's great. And that's how we started paying for our marketing.
Yeah. And I can post, we actually had we actually have a process that you could implement with the VA to kind of help you with some of that too. And I can post that to the Facebook group. Couple real quick questions here, and then I'll just jump over onto more like once you're ready to scale up your marketing, what are some things that, that we did and that you can do? So, Elio, just around the JV stuff. So, the 50-50 split is typical, right? The one thing I will say for us that has always been the case is that, you know, when we do our joint ventures, we always look to establish a percentage split as opposed to a markup type relationship. And that is something that a lot of wholesalers do, right? They'll say, well, here's my price, you go tack on your spread and you market it out. We don't do that because we just find that that's not a joint venture. That is not a partnership, right? We're basically just daisy chaining a deal. And, you know, that buyer has probably seen it from them or vice versa at a different price. And it just causes a whole bunch of pain.
It looks bad.
Bad.
It looks horrible.
Bad.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, I saw this deal from you know, from someone else at 5K lower. Like it's bad business. It tarnishes your reputation. We would rather give up, you know, and we've had other wholesalers sell our deals. I would rather give up a percentage and great, like, yeah, more people the better, right? Than to do that sort of thing. So like I you know, for us personally, we don't sometimes we're actually able to get more because we know a buyer and it's a different situation. We've had that too, but yeah, the marking up is
So yeah, for sure. And so and I'm kind of speeding because I know where this is going on for a bit. Just to close up the thing for Elio. So yeah, 50-50 for us is typical when it's a 50-50, meaning, you know, say another wholesaler has it under contract, they bring us the deal, we handle the dispo. That's a pretty fair 50-50. What we have also found though is there's a lot of wholesalers we work with that need a bit more support on the front end. So if you're actually getting involved with the seller and maybe helping get that contract across the finish line, that may not be a 50-50. It really just depends, right? If we're involving our acquisitions team and the level of effort that kind of goes into the front end of that. But more often than not, 50-50 is fair, right? And then Cindy's question, would you use the same contract to other wholesaler for JV and co-wholesale? Not 100% sure on that, but we have a separate JV contract agreement that we use, right? And so, you know, we can share that as well. So if another wholesaler brings us a deal they have under contract, we put a JV agreement in place, and it typically stipulates that we now kind of control the marketing of the deal, and it speaks to the splits. And that again just makes sure that everyone has the same expectation.
Well, and in our JV agreement too, it does stipulate this one thing, because if we're going to put the work behind it, and I'd suggest and recommend this for you as well, that if you're going to put the effort and the time and everything in behind it, that regardless of who comes forward with the buyer, it is a true partnership at that stage.
Yeah, exactly. So we're 50-50 in this. Exactly. So like if we sign the JV, we're out there pushing hard to sell it, and they end up having a buyer that comes out of nowhere, we're still splitting the fee, right? And that again comes back to this idea of like, we are partners in this deal together. And that doesn't usually ever prove to be an issue. And we feel that's pretty fair, because once we go on it, like, it's full steam ahead, right? And our process, our team, everyone's working on this thing. And it's just sometimes, you know, you put in the effort and then all of a sudden they have a buyer that they spoke to, you know, the very first day they got the deal, and they come out of nowhere. So, you know, we try to address that really early on in the process. Victoria, so percentage response rates for mailing. So again, like, this is really going to depend on
Josh,
the list.
we're going into tracking in a little bit here.
Yeah. Well, no. So, okay. You want to wait? I was going to talk about direct mail response rates, but that's cool. We can wait on that.
Well, because we're going into direct mail like right now.
Yep.
And like scaling marketing and stuff like that. So
that's cool. So in terms of scaling, okay. So now you got some physical stuff going on. You have the business. So for us right now, our most effective paid marketing channels are cold calling and SMS. And so, you know, there's lots of different ways to kind of get both of those channels going for you. There's, you know, various services out there that provide you cold callers. Steve can speak to the cold calling side of things. So the one thing for us is, you know, really treating your cold callers as an extension of your team, right? They are a part of your team, like in terms of, you know, weekly huddle calls, like, well, bi-weekly huddle calls that we have with them. We have them on our company Slack channel. They're communicating with our acquisitions team in real time. Steve spends time training and developing them. You know, we do all company happy hours, virtual happy hours. They're on those calls. Like, they really are a part of the team. And we attribute a lot of our success in cold calling to that fact, as opposed to just, you know, they're an outsourced cold call center and we're just burning through cold callers. Like we're talking with them regularly. And that's really proven to be an effective channel for us. We see about a 900% ROI on our cold calling, which is really great for us. Meaning, for every dollar we spend on cold calling, we make 9. And that's basically been the case for us over the past 6 months, which has been really, really good. SMS, we have also scaled that up. There's ways to, it is a relatively affordable marketing channel. And I think you could kind of roll that out pretty quickly if you got a small budget. You just have to have realistic expectations in terms of what you can expect to see based on your budget, right? And this was kind of a lesson, for Steve and I, understanding, and the next section kind of talks about tracking, but really truly understanding your cost per deal. Like, what do you have to spend on marketing to get a deal? Is an important KPI to understand, because that's going to help you forecast out your marketing, right? And if or you have been advised that on average, your average cost per deal is $3,000, let's say, then you need to assume that if you're only spending $1,000 a month on a given marketing channel, it may take you 3 months to do a deal, right? Like that's just simple math, right? And that's kind of one of the beautiful things about wholesaling, is it's a formula, right? And granted, everyone's numbers vary to a certain degree, but you can draw some pretty good assumptions by, talking with people that are doing this in different markets, and kind of come up with some general kind of guidelines around, what your KPI should be, so that you can reverse engineer the whole thing. So, that's an important thing. Like, as you start to spend money, like real money on marketing, having an idea of what your costs are, right? So that you can forecast out and decide, what is it going to take to kind of get a deal done, right? So cold calling, SMS are by far our best performing. Direct mail is something that we have done since the beginning at various sort of degrees. I think at our peak, we were probably sending out 40 to 45,000 pieces a month. We've scaled that back pretty significantly over the last 6 months or so, because it really has not been performing for us as well as it has in the past. To the earlier question, we're seeing probably a 1.5% response rate for direct mail. That's dipped to like 0.5%, even lower. And so, it works, but it also, we find is a less immediate sort of lead source, right? Like, often the direct mail leads take longer to kind of work through our sales funnel, and longer to convert, right? Longer follow-up sequences and those sorts of things. So we always have some direct mail going out, because it feeds sort of this longer term pipeline for us. But we've scaled that back pretty significantly. I think now we're probably sending out, maybe 10,000 pieces a month, but we're trying to do it on higher targeted lists, stacking lists, try to get in front of better sellers, because it is expensive, right? It can be really expensive to do mail, right? You can be spending anywhere from 35 to 75 cents per piece, so that can add up pretty quickly if you want to do volume. And again, coming back to this idea of cost per deal, you can see how this can kind of get going. You can scale up pretty quickly. The only other paid source for scaling is going online, right? Google AdWords, for a lot of people, is their top performing campaign source. For us, it's kind of a love-hate. We've done it relatively consistently for the past 3 years. 1 year, it was our top performing, marketing channel. The other 2 years, it was a bust. So
so Josh, to that, here's the thing with the marketing is that, and we're going to go into tracking here very soon, but you need to have multiple streams of marketing, especially when you're scaling, right? And to rely on just one, if something happens, like all of a sudden, we went with our PPC company, it was our best source, and then we lost $70,000 on it back in last year. And, we had other things supplementing that as well, but if we were reliant only on pay-per-click, we would have been in some serious trouble. well, yeah, we wouldn't have probably still been in business. So just something to consider, right? And supplementing, I find like, what we do is we have our paid sources, but then we also supplement it with some higher volume traffic stuff as well. So very important to kind of be omnipresent in terms of marketing.
For sure. That's a good point, Steve. And the other thing too, to keep in mind, like, especially on the SMS and the RVM, like it is typically a higher volume based lead source. Now, obviously it's cheap, right? It's a pretty affordable, you can spend a cent per text message. So you can do a lot of volume, but you often, in order to really scale it up, it's a lot of volume, right? It's a lot of messages coming in. So you need a process in place to be able to manage the inbound messaging and follow up and all that kind of comes of it. So in order to really scale up SMS, you need support. We have VAs that basically full time, they just manage inbound responses, try to assess if there's an interested lead, and then push it over to our acquisitions team, and that feeds that funnel. So.
And so we use a company called Launch Control. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's an SMS company. A good friend of ours, Aaron, started it. But in my opinion, it is probably the best SMS tool. He does, I think it's the skip tracing as well. Everything is scrubbed against, DNC lists and local state lists as well. Because that's the other thing that you really need to make sure that you're aware of what the rules and regulations are in your particular market. So maybe seek legal advice or counsel or something like that prior to doing it. But if you're looking at a software, that is a good software because it does also houses a CRM, which does connect to Podio and other CRMs as well. And so you can keep all of your leads in that, and they have a follow-up campaign, a drip campaign that you can utilize as well, and basically keep everything in that one spot. And then when it's time, something it's a hotter lead or it's a more motivated lead, you can then push it into a different platform and then have it part of your follow-up there. So that's Launch Control. I'll put a link. I don't know if I have the link yet. I don't think I do.
You can throw it in the Facebook group when you get it.
Well, yeah. I'll throw it in the Facebook group. I'll also send it out. But Launch Control, he's also going to, I think, give everyone here or whoever signs up uses Tallbridge Investments or Tallbridge. He's going to throw in something too. I hope so. Maybe not. Let me double check. But I'll get the link for everyone. And then if you're looking at a platform, I highly recommend this one. Not because of any sort of affiliate thing. We've tried several, and this by far I think is the best user interface, functionality wise. Our guys like it. So from an acquisitions perspective, it really helps you nurture these leads in such a way that is manageable.
Yeah. So we use Launch Control, to Steve's point, more for like the higher quality lists and nurturing type campaigns. And then we use Roar for more of our mass kind of texting, which is integrated with our CRM system. Cindy and Gus, you guys use Launch Control, which is cool. I'm just looking questions, Victoria. Yeah, we kind of touched on, you maybe joined a bit late, but how many people in our company? Yeah, there's 15 or so. Do you use scripts for cold calling? Absolutely. I think our next meetup is going to be all acquisitions, where Steve's going to go deep into our script, how we work with sellers, how our cold caller works with sellers. So there'll be a ton of really good value that your guys will get out of that meetup in 2 weeks' time. Daniel's question here is about offers. So do you make offers? Do you try to obtain pictures of the property from the owner? Maybe what I'll do is we'll come back to that one, Daniel, just so we can try to kind of finish out the marketing stuff. And then if we have a few minutes, we can dive into that. And that would definitely be something we'll talk about on the acquisition meetup that we're going to be doing in 2 weeks. All right. Daniel, when do you usually transition a conversation with the seller from a text to a call? I don't know, Steve, I'd say like as soon as there's an indication of interest in wanting to sell, it's like you want to kind of move that off pretty quickly and get on the phone with them.
Yeah. And it's not just like, give me $1 million and I'll sell kind of thing. It's like, a favorite line for that is like, oh, does that come with your neighbor's house as well? And that's something that Aaron, and the other thing about Launch Control, and I know I'm really plugging this, but he also produces a lot of great content. You know, because he does his virtual as well in his market, but he produces a lot of great content from an acquisition standpoint, from like everything, like really, 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 I mean, super smart guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good person to know, well connected as well. So, but yeah, as soon as someone raises their hand, guy, like everyone, like as soon as someone raises their hand and says, yeah, like I'm interested in hearing an offer, we want our guys to know that right away, and to call them, right? And our acquisitions will vet the seller or the prospect, and then decide and go from there. So yeah, you don't, it's better to, in my opinion, it's better to make that phone call and it not be a deal or an opportunity than to possibly miss out on something because you've prejudged it.
Awesome. Let's see here. Oh, just a quick question in terms of how we use Launch Crow versus Roar. So we use both systems in parallel. You guys hearing me, Steve?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my mic kicked out. So we use Launch Control currently for smaller lists. So they might be more of a specialty type list because it's, you know, again, the real intent behind Launch Control is to really foster and nurture leads within the system. So there's drip automation and all sorts of campaign sort of features that you can build out. Roar is more like big batch campaigns. Like, you know, we want to send 5, 6, 7,000 text messages a day. It's good for sort of bigger lists. So like you want to hit a high equity list, you know, and it's, you know, the entire city. There might be 50,000 phone numbers or something like that. So that's kind of how we're using Roar right now. It's more of a volume play, whereas Launch Control, I'd say, is really effective for quality, right? You're going to get more out of those leads, but you want them to be really, really good leads. Roar for us is kind of, again, it's scale. It's more automated and integrated with our Podio, and so we're able to kind of do it at a much higher volume. So that's kind of how we're using the two platforms. I can maybe do like a little video demo at a later point and share that with people so you can see like the systems and stuff like that, which are pretty cool.
Kathy, yes, we do use Kent Clothier's software, Smart.
Yeah.
We are familiar with it, and we use it.
Yeah. Oh, and I think there was a question in terms of like the lists we use. So I didn't really touch on that.
Right, that was Victoria.
Yeah. So, you know, we've tried them all. The most important thing is you kind of test, right? You test, you measure, you see what works. And so for us, as of late, our most effective lists have been, we actually have had really good success with high equity, just big high equity lists. And tax delinquents would probably be the second most effective list for us. But we're constantly mailing, messaging, vacants, absentee owners lists, foreclosure lists, liens. We get most of our data from Kent's system, from ListSource, from PropStream, and Propelio are kind of like the main sort of vendors that we use to get our data. But, you know, there's you can get into like a whole debate conversation about list providers, and people have their preferences and what works, what doesn't work. I'd say probably even more important than your list, especially if you're getting into texting and all that, is your skip tracing, right? It's making sure that you have a really good vendor that's getting you those phone numbers, and that, you know, you got to stay close to that and really pay attention to, you know, your invalid numbers and things like that, because you really start to see that ROI drop down pretty quickly. And this is, you know, something we've noticed in the last couple of months when we switched skip tracing providers. So we're now looking and moving over to a new one. So you want to really kind of stay close to that. So hopefully, Kathy, that answers your questions there.
Hey, Josh, your video's not on. Are you aware of that?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. For some reason, it keeps kicking off, and
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're. Okay. Yeah. Oh geez. You sound like. Okay. Probably shouldn't have done that. But you sound like a mouse. Okay, so I don't know what's going on there, Josh, with your connection.
Is that better?
Yeah, way better. Okay.
Okay. I don't
All
know.
right.
Sorry.
No, my bad.
Okay. No, you're good. You're good. Okay. So I was going to just transition and just talk tracking for a bit. Steve kind of made the earlier point, right? Just how important it is to know your numbers, right? And you can get real granular with this stuff and lose yourself in the numbers. I would say starting off to really simplify it, one of the things that we have kind of done consistently is really just looking at ROI, right? And it's a simple calculation, right? It is, what are you spending on marketing if you want to start at holistically, and then what are you making, right? Pretty basic calculation. The one thing I would suggest you do is you want to make sure you look at it on a lead source basis, right? So if you're doing a couple different forms of marketing, make sure that you pay attention to the ROI for each of those channels. And this is actually, something we in the past did not do a great job of. And what can happen is you can basically hide what is really happening, right? So for us, as a very specific example, there was a point in time where our cost per deal was creeping higher and higher and higher and higher. And it actually was much worse than we thought it was. And the only reason why, we really didn't have the visibility into it is because of the JV stuff that we were doing, which effectively had zero cost to us in terms of marketing. So really making sure at a starting point that you have good visibility into your ROI, and so long as you're tracking your costs, right? What are you spending on a specific campaign? It's a pretty easy calculation for you to do. Obviously, the more frequent you can do it, the better. But even if you're doing it on, say, a monthly basis, that's a great place to start. Once you kind of have a grasp of that, obviously, you want to start to go a little deeper, right? And I would say there's kind of two areas of tracking to focus on. There's conversion, right? Which is really looking at, less about the dollars and more about the quality of the marketing, right? And it's looking at things like, for every lead that you get, how many leads does it take to get a viable lead or an opportunity? That's kind of how we refer to it, right? And that's going to be a good indication of, is your marketing working, right? And so having a means to track that, whether it be in your CRM or perhaps something more manual, is a really important thing for you to kind of dial into, so that you can compare your leads, your different marketing sources. And then you just basically build it from there. So you have your lead to opportunity, you have your lead to contract. It's kind of the next step, right? And if you can gain some visibility into those two KPIs, you can really assess whether or not your marketing is effective, right? Once you have a sense of your conversion, right, and then you start to look at things like, well, cost tracking, right? So the important things to really understand are things like your cost per lead, right? And again, simple calculation: how much did you spend on a lead source? How many leads did you get? You divide the two, and it gives you a really good idea of whether or not, or I guess it allows you to basically compare your lead sources, right, or your marketing channels by using these sorts of KPIs. You do similar calculations: cost per opportunity, cost per deal. And really, at the end of the day, like, that's going to give you the visibility that you need. And I think probably, Steve, what would be helpful is maybe we could share, I'll post like a view of our scorecard that would give people an idea of some of the basic KPIs that we track. And there's KPIs we look at as a team every single week. And then there's a much more
like the golden ratio.
Yeah, like the golden ratio, or even like our master scorecard, right? Where
Right.
as a team, every Monday we meet, and the entire team, acquisitions, Dispo, Sabrina's on our operations team, we come and we look at some of the high level KPIs. And Steve and I, we have a more detailed dashboard. We use a tool called Plecto, which is really cool. And it allows us to really kind of go deep into all of the metrics across our different lead channels. But that is, again, like, you can get pretty complicated, and I'm not suggesting you go there right off the bat. Having some of the basics, cost per lead, average deal size, average cost per deal, like, those are some of like the basic things that you want to kind of embed in your business right away, so that you can pivot, right? Like, and as soon as you start to lose track of these KPIs, things can really quickly unravel. And you really don't know what's working and what isn't working. And so, building that into your weekly kind of process as a business owner is a really good idea.
So Josh, what would you say, like, me, right? Like for me, spreadsheets and tracking and all this stuff, like not necessarily my forte.
Yeah.
Admittedly though, I've improved, but like that's not something that, like, for me, I gravitate towards, right? Like it's overwhelming at times and that sort of thing. So for like the people on this call that, like, maybe this isn't their thing, how is it that, because there you can really go deep into this and analyze it, but like what would you recommend as far as, maybe just like the top 3 to 5 things that you should be looking at? And maybe we'll highlight this in the sheet that we're sending, but like what would be the, like, hey, if you look at, if you don't look at anything else, these are the things that you want to be looking at from your marketing like from tracking your marketing.
Well, so in terms of like the marketing itself, like you got to track your leads, right? You absolutely need to know how many leads you're bringing in, right?
Now, okay, so hold on. So leads, let's define lead.
Yeah. So you're basically your raw lead, right? So, every phone call that comes in, that is a raw lead. It may not be a real viable lead. It could be a misdial. It could be an FU. It could be, whatever the case may be. But we track raw leads. And then the next is like what we define as like a viable lead. Like this is a real person. They're open to receiving an offer. And again, that's going to indicate how effective the marketing is, right? It's one thing to get the phone to ring. It's another thing to get the phone to ring with real people that actually have an interest in selling, right? And that's how we can assess whether or not a marketing channel is working.
So if I look at this from an equation standpoint, so A equals raw lead.
Okay, sure.
Okay, go with me here on this.
Sure, yeah, it's raw for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like what we're doing here is we're getting to, okay, what is the cost, right? So raw lead, then valid interested lead. Now, what kind of percentage in our business, and like speaking with a lot of other wholesalers and investors across the nation, generally speaking, what sort of conversion do you want to see out of your leads, your raw leads?
So for us, it's 10 to 1. That's our target. So for every raw call that comes in, it's a valid lead, right? So this could be a lead that was pushed over by our SMS team. This could be a lead that was pushed over by our cold call team. This could be a lead that comes in from a direct mail piece. That's a valid lead.
We want aggregate.
Yeah.
So that's an aggregate.
We want 10 of those to every one opportunity. That for us is like, okay, yeah, our marketing's working pretty well, right?
Majority of our leads though right now are coming from cold call.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we're still kind of tracking against that target, right? So again, like, it does vary across your lead sources, and that's a whole nother conversation where we can go deeper. But generally speaking, I'd say a 10 to 1 is a pretty healthy KPI to track as a business. And again, all you need to track is raw lead versus opportunity or like valid interested, however you want to define it.
Okay. So once you get a valid interested, then obviously the next one is what? Contract?
Yeah. And so for us, what we strive for is 5 to 1. So that means for every 5 opportunities, we want to get a contract. And that is the KPI that we hold our acquisitions team accountable to, right? So like marketing is how we really simplify this. So for marketing, we look at raw lead to opportunity. That's the KPI for marketing. For acquisitions, we look at opportunity to contract, because again, we've determined that this is a real opportunity. Now it's onto our acquisitions team and their effectiveness to get the contract, right? And we set a target of 5 to 1, which is, it's aggressive for sure. But we got a really solid acquisitions team, and, we've proven to be able to do that, right? So that's kind of the goal. Then, you're tracking, this is kind of getting to the flip side of it. It is now we're looking at contract to close, right? That would kind of be the last part of it, right? If you think of it in terms of like marketing, acquisitions, dispositions, we want to sell, of the contracts that we get, we want to successfully wholesale to a buyer and close at least 55% of our contracts, which for some people might seem low, but generally speaking, that's actually a pretty good target. I'd say companies kind of range anywhere from like probably 35% to, maybe higher if they're like a lower volume kind of operation, or, depending on their marketing and all that. But that's sort of the framework that we set up. Does that help, Steve?
Yeah, no, I think that's super important because there's some people that are going to really love getting into the numbers and that sort of thing, and then there's other people that are like, okay, well, just give me the basics of it. And sorry, I was writing some notes here. I may have missed this. But what is where do you ideally, for paid marketing, what is a good cost per deal?
Yeah. So this is the thing with cost per deal, and this is why I prefer our golden ratio, which is the ROI, right? And the reason I say this is, you could say your cost per deal could be $10,000, but if you're making on average $50,000 on an assignment fee, that's still a pretty good ROI. That's a 5-to-1, right? And so, I could tell you that I would say, cost per deal should probably be somewhere in the range of $3,000 to $5,000 is probably reasonable and pretty consistent with, our peers across the country. But if you're able to get these home run deals, or you're in, say, the Bay Area, right, and you may pay a boatload, to get these leads and these contracts, but you're making $100K on an assignment, what does it matter if you're spending $10,000-$20,000 to get a deal, right? So that's where, again, for me, what's more important is really looking at that ROI, and that's why I started there. So long as you're tracking your total cost spent on, say, SMS, and you understand how much you've made on SMS, divide the two, and that gives you a ratio. And I would say, if you certainly want to be above 3-to-1. 3-to-1, you're a profitable company if your operations are relatively tight, right? I'd say on average, a wholesale company is probably operating at like a 30 to 40% gross profit margin before you pay yourself out as a business owner. So again, 3-to-1, you got 30% of that going to marketing. You have another 20-30% going to operations, and then the balance is your profit as a company, right? So that's where the 3-to-1 comes from. But I think you should definitely, if you're doing a good enough job on the front end, on marketing, on good lists, on good skip tracing, and you have a decent acquisition process and some decent buyers, you should be able to push that up to like 4 or 5-to-1, for sure. Like all day, that would definitely, I would say 5-to-1 would be a really great thing to strive for, and you're a healthy, profitable wholesale company. So hopefully that helps.
Okay. Anything else there, Josh, you think?
No, I think, less is more, like getting started, right? Like just keep track of your costs. I would encourage you as early as possible to get like a CRM, something simple. If you're a small operator, I'm a big proponent of going with one of the turnkey options, Investor PO or maybe Investor Fuse. Donald Ross has Beast Mode CRM. There's all sorts of CRMs that are kind of turnkey that give you a lot of the automation and the tracking. But you want to the sooner you can get your campaign tracking and stuff in place, the better, right? Because you'll have that visibility.
Well, and a lot of them have the add-ons too.
For sure.
That are really super great to have the ability to just, as you scale your business, you can add, different sorts of features that are going to help you get in front of more sellers and follow up campaigns and things like that. Couple things here. So questions, if you want to ask a question, and not through the chat, just let us know.
Yeah. Can you unmute everybody just so if people have something to say, they can throw it out there?
I can. Now, let me just go through, before I go through that, I'm going to go through the chat here.
Cool.
Daniel, okay, conversion not located, and does this create some red flag? When doing deals, at what point in the conversation do you tell the sellers that you're not located? Oh man, so that is a great question, and again, something that we'll cover in the acquisitions, but all the time. you gotta think like in this day and age. I mean, people invest in just about anything online. I mean, people buy, Bentleys online. Not me, but people do. That'd be cool. But people do that, and so like this day and age, it's not the fact that we're in Vancouver is actually an interesting conversation starter, which if anything helps build rapport. So the credibility comes in and that kind of ties back into, look, if you're not in that market and you've made relationships with real estate agents, wholesalers, other people, like there's Jack here on the call, like we've done work with Jack. Like Jack is someone, if we have an opportunity in his backyard and we can't figure it out, or we need some help, or something, we know we can call Jack and Jack would be there to help us. Like that's the beauty of working with people and getting to know people in the market. So from a credibility standpoint, there's people that are more than willing to go out and help you. And that's kind of tying back to core values. You attract what you are and what you put out there. And if you don't know what your values are and those sorts of things, you may attract the wrong people. But, in our case, we've been lucky that way, and we've attracted some really good people. So yeah, I think you don't really have to worry about that. If it's an issue, I can remember one time, a guy in Texas told me that he doesn't want to work with us because we're not in the country, and if I stepped on his property, he would shoot me. And that was, I didn't call him back. I did not call him back. But that was the only time that's ever been an issue. And other than that, I can't really think of anyone that's been opposed to it. Are we using virtual lead managers to qualify inbound seller leads before sending them to acquisitions? I'm so happy you asked that question. Or are they pushed directly to sales agent from callers and texters? So we did this when we were scaling our business. Like we had a virtual lead manager, and the virtual lead manager, we did not set her up for success. Talk about a massive failure, which almost crushed our business. We did not know our marketing costs. We did not track it. We did not track our sales, like lead to conversion rates, anything. And so what was happening there is we thought, okay, well, this is simple. Let's just put this person in here, give her a script, and she's going to qualify people and then push them over to our acquisitions. So she was basically the voice of our company from an inbound perspective. These were people that were calling us, and that just about crushed our business 4 years ago. So my recommendation is, well, no, we do not use a virtual lead manager. All of our acquisitions are here. What we do now, though, is we have a cold call team, and our cold call team is calling leads, right? And they're pushing them over to acquisitions. However, anything that comes through any sort of direct mail or phone calls coming in, those go direct to our acquisitions floor. We want our people to handle those calls, and because they're the best positioned to do it. And if you don't have a team, this pained me at the time, because like I wanted to scale out of the acquisitions side of the business, which now I don't. But is like, if you don't have a team and you don't know your numbers, you're not going to be effective at hiring people and telling them what to do and how to be successful. More importantly, how to be successful at their job. So from an acquisition standpoint, if you don't have a team, you got to get into that seat, and you've got to figure out, okay, well, what does that ratio look like from raw lead to valid interested or opportunity to contract to close? And then once you get in for about 6 months, right, of data, once you get that, then you can hire someone, bring someone in, and then teach them how to do it, and then scale it that way. That was our experience. So I hope I'm answering that question okay there for you, and we'll get more into that too in the acquisition side of the meetup, which I believe again is next
2 weeks.
Next few weeks. Yes, 2 weeks from now. What else we got? By chance, would you share a cold calling script? Yes, I will. I put a list together of the things that we're sharing. What's the name of your Facebook group, Victoria? It's
Real estate group. Yeah, I put it in the feed here.
the virtual real estate group. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. What CRM are you using for your business? We're using Podio, right?
Yeah, we use Podio like on the marketing acquisition side, and then we use Active Campaign for disposition, like for managing our email campaigns and all that. Although we're kind of phasing that out a bit and moving more and more towards managing our cash buyers in Podio.
Yeah. Who are you using for skip tracing, and who are you moving to? Now, I don't know if maybe we'll send that to you offline. Like, I don't want to
Yeah, that's fair.
say anything negative about this company because it is just our experience, and but who are we moving to?
Well, we're looking at a couple options, but
Yeah.
IDI is one of them. We've used them in the past, and
yeah.
So.
And the thing is that
there's a lot of companies out there.
It could have been the list too.
Possibly, yeah, for sure.
Okay, any other questions? I'll unmute everyone. So if you don't want that, mute yourself. I think I can do that. Can I do that? Maybe not. I don't think I can do that.
No, I think in the webinar format you can, so.
Okay.
No, good.
If you want to ask a question, unmute yourself. Can we do that?
Yeah, well, people, if there's any other questions, they can just say, I got a question in the feed, and we can unmute them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Well, look, yeah, really appreciate it. Everyone being on. One of the great things about this and something that, we're looking to grow is this group, right? Because one of the things that has benefited us from a virtual perspective are the connections that we've made through these sorts of groups. And you'll be surprised, spending a little bit of time getting to know people like this, what that might lead to. I know for us, it literally has probably led to hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue that we've generated from being a part of groups like this and sharing information and doing JV deals with each other and stuff like that. So there's a lot of value here. So we are looking to grow this group. So please share this information with people. We eventually, more engagement. Right now, we're sharing a lot about our business, but we will be bringing people into this. He doesn't know it yet, but it will happen. I will bring Kent into this meeting at one point. Clothier will bring Justin Colby into this meeting. He doesn't know that yet either. A lot of people don't know that they're coming on here, like John Martinez. He owes us a few. So he will get him on there. He's a great acquisitions person. We'll get Aaron on here, Pimpus, launch control, kind of sharing you best practices when it comes to marketing and texting. I know Scott Bauer. There's Nick Lagarmo. He was on here earlier, and he doesn't know this yet, but we'll even get him on here, and he'll talk about some creative deal structures, and he's going to crush it with a lot of the creative stuff. Jeff, do you know Nick? No. Okay. So he doesn't even know that yet, but these are the people that we're going to bring on. And this is going to be fantastic. So like there's going to be a lot of great content here that we're going to cover. Next week we're going to be covering or not 2 weeks from now, acquisitions.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something that I oversee. I've spent the last, I don't know, however long it's been now, doing it. So that's kind of my jam. And I look forward to it. But Josh, thank you so much for the marketing, man. Sales is like without the marketing, sales doesn't function, right? And without sales, effective sales, the marketing is irrelevant. So the two are so very, very important here because you can't have one without the other.
It's awesome. No, it's great, Steve.
Any parting words, Josh?
No, I'm good. Like it's exciting, right? Like it's grateful to have the opportunity to kind of build this group. And the more, like I said at the beginning, like the interaction is huge. So continuing to encourage people to come prepared with questions, issues, asks, anything, anything that can be of helpful, can be of value, bring that forward. And that's the goal, right? So lots more to come, right? We got this is 2, so we have 6 planned right now. And then I think we'll kind of turn to some of the guests. We'll turn to, some of the needs of the group in terms of topics and things we can present on, and look forward to just growing this community out. It's gonna be great.
And so please feel free to reach out to us. Tesh, you're Canadian and you also buy in Austin, Texas. That is awesome. So yes, absolutely reach out to us. I'm going to put our email addresses here in the chat so that everyone has them. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll do our very best to reach back out to you as quickly as possible. I have here, and why am I having trouble? I'm getting TallbridgeInvestments.com. So these are the things that we're supposed to share. The launch control link. So I'll send out an email with this recording, everyone, so that you have it. But launch control link, the scorecard, Josh, with like the different ratios and stuff. The cold call script. Someone was asking for the cold call script. Nicole, that was you. So I'll send that out. Is there anything else that anyone would like from us that we discussed that you think would be valuable? Because we'll just share it all in one email that we'll send out.
Yeah, if you've got any kind of transcripts when it comes to the SMS marketing, as far as kind of how that initial one goes out, and then any responses when they first text back, that'd be very helpful.
Okay.
I know you built out the stuff in launch control.
Yeah.
Like in terms of Roar, we do have some like pre-canned scripts and stuff. I will say it's like constant trial and error always. But I have like a laundry list of different messages we send to buyers, to prospective sellers, to basically engage with them. Again, like the whole goal with the SMS is, generally speaking, as soon as we get an indication of an interest in receiving an offer, the SMS conversation stops and it pushes over to a phone call, right? And so we try to get people on the phone and on our phone system, which is another probably meetup that we can do that's really kind of helped to streamline, automate our business.
And Josh, like Aaron would be super.
He'd be the guy to talk about messaging and all that stuff. Yeah.
Jeff, who are you using, or what are you using for SMS?
We haven't deployed it yet, but Regina and I are planning to use Roar.
Okay. So are you looking at more of a mass kind of SMS?
Yeah, that's what we want to get started is the blast, and then our plan eventually is to have a full-time VA who can respond to the SMSs.
Don't move. Don't move right now.
He can't see you if you don't move.
Because
my other business partner, she has no help at all in the business.
There you go.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
Josh, Roar versus launch control.
It's different. It's
different.
And I think maybe, Jeff, why don't we can maybe connect offline too, and I can kind of get into that. I was like,
you and Regina
coming up. Yeah, me and Regina the cat. We'll have a chat. Yeah.
No, Regina's not a cat.
I'm kidding.
Regina's on this call right now.
I know she is.
She's going to talk. She's now looking. She's unmuted herself now.
No, for sure. We can have a chat about it afterwards, because this is different, right? Like launch control, again, is a lot more like, in terms of like communication, interface, all that stuff is a lot more user friendly and designed for that. Roar for us, it's just, we use it to send out the campaigns. All of our messaging and everything is managed actually out of a workspace in Podio that we've built out. So we don't even use the messenger capability in Roar. It's simply just to send them out. So, but yeah, that's something I can show offline, or I'll do like a little maybe 2-minute, 3-minute demo of like how our Roar is integrated with Podio, and I can share that.
Yeah, and I know with it really just depends on the business, because I know Roar is a lot, from my understanding of it anyways, a little more complicated. Is that fair to say? Josh?
Um, I, the different strengths and weaknesses,
Okay.
but yeah, I think let's get into that afterwards. I think it's
And I know one thing with launch control too is that they are going to they're training people in house to do it as well. So you know from that perspective, and they're trained by Aaron. Like they're not. It's not going to be something that they don't manage. They're not managing. So from that perspective, it could also be like something to look into, because you could have someone looking at your you know, doing that initial vetting for you. The other thing he said too, and this will be part of the link, is he's going to give a discount on skip tracing. So that's going to be, and I think they use IDI for their skip tracing, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but don't quote me on that. And I'll put the skip trace, and it's for a lifetime too. So I'll verify the skip trace. It looks actually pretty good if that's true. I don't want to say it because if it's not, then I'm in trouble. But it looks like it's a pretty good deal as well. Jack, you had a question. Contracts, Victoria. We'll talk about that next time in the acquisitions. Contracts, Josh, do we want to share a contract? Is that something we can share?
like what contract?
I think are you talking about acquisition seller contract? Yeah, purchase contracts.
Yeah. We have like, you know, we'll use a local state contract in some cases, or we'll just use like a simple 2-pager that we have. So we can definitely share that.
And then Jack, okay, great question. Retail leads. So right now, and this kind of ties into the whole creative deal structure. You know, I've had a lot of, and Josh, who are some of the people that were like Nick's one that we're talking to, where, you know, there's a way that you can actually almost, you know, you can pay over retail for some of these without coming out a lot out of pocket. So it's different creative deal structures that you can do. You know, who are some people that this is how I would take a retail lead and monetize it. So one is with agents. You can pass them leads, you know, warmly. And, you know, who doesn't want a warm lead? Like they're interested in selling, but they're retail, you know, become partners with a local real estate agent there that you can pass those off to. But for your business, creative deal structure is super important. And there's some people that you can follow, like Pace.
Yeah, Pace Morby's got a good Facebook group. If you just Google, you'll find him. And then Jeff Rappaport is another guy that, if you're really wanting to get into creative, he's got a podcast that is really good, and he's just a great guy. Like we connect with him at a border mastermind years ago, and yeah, wealth of knowledge. That podcast is amazing. So if you're really wanting to get into creative deal structures, those are 2 good resources. Tons of good content there.
Yeah,
that's where I'd start. Yeah.
All right, everyone.
Cool. Good.
Getting hungry.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been great, everybody. Appreciate everyone staying on here a little longer than I think we expected, but we will post the recording to the Facebook group, and we'll also send a link out via the Meetup. Yeah, questions, just keep posting them up in the Facebook group. We'll be following that real close. And again, the next Meetup is going to be on the 27th. Yep, 27th, same time, focusing on all things acquisitions. So.
All right, everyone.
That does it. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay. Bye.